Conflict is a part of life, but resolution is an art. Let us gain insight from Shri Ananta Bhagavan Das Prabhu as we uncover the roots of conflict and the spiritual wisdom to rise above it.
Prabhuji, whether at work or home, conflicts or misunderstanding are too common these days. Can you please explain what can be the reason of this?
There can be several reasons. One reason, obviously, is because of ego. But apart from that, there are some practical reasons also, uh, which actually become a major stumbling block for the relationships to develop, and that could eventually result in conflicts. One thing is setting up proper boundaries. So there are not very clearly defined boundaries because of which the conflicts occur. So setting up boundaries is very important, and communication is very important. Sometimes both may have a good reason to believe each other, and both may have a good reason to trust each other, and the intention of both the parties may be good, but still the conflicts may happen if there is insufficient or inappropriate communication, or if the boundaries are not properly set up. So it's essential that the communication and boundaries are properly addressed for the conflicts to not happen.
So, Prabhuji, whether at like, is it workplace conflict or personal conflict? So, what do you think? Which is more stressful?
Both are stressful, especially personal conflicts are considered to be more stressful because they directly deal with our relationships, and it deals with close relationships. The statistics say that the murders, for example, in America, the statistics say the murders which happen are because the closest people have done the most violent murders.
Yes.
The divorces which happen, or the differences between husband and wife, or the differences between brothers, and the legal problems which brothers have amongst the property distribution matters and all that. The differences are a result that because of the differences, the murders happen, and the crime which happens amongst the family members is far greater than the crime which is done by terrorists or some social groups or something like that. So most violent murders happen within families. So the point I'm trying to make is that because the family members, they know us, they know us in and out, and not just family members, those who are near and dear, basically friends and whomsoever. So they know us near and dear, and we put lot of trust in them, and the resources are common. So the differences which are amongst the personal, which the conflicts which happen within our personal space, they create a greater problem than the conflicts which happen in workplace, in that sense.
Prabhuji, what we feel from inside, it reflects outside. Do you feel outer conflict a result of inner conflict?
Very much. There's a great chance. What we have in our mind, that reflects as body language, and that reflects as the words. So unconsciously or consciously. If it happens consciously, that's far better. So what thoughts which we have in our mind and the conflicts which we have in our mind, if they are not addressed, then naturally we'll not have a uh, proper paradigm or proper disposition towards the conflicts which we have in the society, or in our family, or in the society, or in the workplace, or whatsoever. So outer conflicts very much are because of the inner conflicts which we have, and if we have that inner strength, then naturally we can address outer conflicts in a far better situation than if our inner conflicts are not addressed properly.
Okay. Prabhuji, suppose someone is going through personal pain or emotional pain and it's hampering their work. So, how we can handle the situation? Like, is there any spiritual way or meditation?
Yes, yes, yes. First and foremost thing is that if we are going through a emotional problem or a personal problem, it will naturally hamper our work, hamper our work and hamper our relationships both. So it's essential to address it. First thing is that first thing to address an emotional problem or a personal problem is to accept it. Most of the times we go to the next stage of trying to change the situation.
Mm.
Trying to change the situation comes later and will not be able to effectively address it unless and until the first step, which is being aware of the problem, and the second step is to accept the problem, and third step is to aspire. So we suggest a 3-step formula: awareness of the problem, second step is to accept the problem, and third step is to aspire to change the problem. So awareness includes that when we get an inkling that, oh, there's a problem, so then we have to put the time and energy in order to understand how this problem is affecting me. So that goes to the zone of acceptance. So acceptance includes experiencing the problem while being in boundaries, and if that is addressed properly, then we can go to the next step of aspiring to change the problem.
Okay, how one can accept it? Like it's difficult to accept.
Yeah, so therefore we need the question which you were asking: do we have any spiritual technique? We need a higher strength. We need a strength from because of the strength which we derive from a higher source. It becomes easy to follow all these 3 steps: awareness, acceptance, and aspiration. The strength, there are 2 ways by which we can gain strength. One way is both are spiritual means. One way is to by prayer, by praying to a higher source, higher power, by praying to God, we can get strength to become aware of our problem, accept our problem, and aspire to change the problem. And another way is to have good friends who are spiritual minded,
Yes.
and they know our problems, and they are also concerned about us, and we are also concerned about them. So having such good friends who are spiritual minded, they will help us, because God comes through good friends actually. So these two strategies are very good. They give us strength to be able to be aware of the problem, accept the problem, and aspire to change the problem. And that is becomes a major part of addressing the conflicts.
Prabhuji, there are so many negative emotions like anger, ego. So how we can overcome it?
There's a parable of good dogs and bad dogs. So we have negative emotions and we have positive emotions as well. Anger, ego, jealousy, resentment, bitterness, envy, all these are negative emotions which are there. They are there within our heart. And there are positive emotions: courage, humility, kindness, compassion, sympathy, non-violence. These are all positive emotions which are there within our heart. So good dogs represent positive emotions, bad dogs represent negative emotions. So we keep feeding the bad dogs, then the bad dogs keep barking louder and louder. Yeah, and if we keep feeding, we have to feed the good dogs and starve the bad dogs. If we do the opposite, if we feed the bad dogs and starve the good dogs, then the bad dogs or the bad emotions which we speak of, they become louder and louder. They bark louder and louder. On the other hand, if we feed the good emotions like humility, courage, kindness, faith, and trust in God, so they start becoming louder and louder. And that's the best way to deal with our emotions, to feed the good emotions, because we can't nullify the emotions. There is no concept of being able to nullify, because each and every individual, he has emotions and he wishes to express those emotions. The bhakti is about how the negative emotions can be transformed into positive emotions. By focusing on the positive emotions, the negative emotions can also become transformed to positive emotions, like that.
Prabhuji, you often talk about responding in place of reacting. So how this strategy will help us to resolve workplace conflict?
Our brain, psychologists say, it has 2 sides: thinking side and feeling side. So generally, whenever there is a stimulus, so the response is supposed to go through both sides. It is supposed to go through thinking side and feeling side. But if there is a, a heavy stimulus, let us say, then our brain is programmed in such a way that it can immediately give a response. So then the thinking side is hijacked. So imagine if there is, let us say, somebody attacks you, immediately we attack, isn't it? Immediately we respond, right? So like that. So that time the brain is programmed in such a way that it can immediately uh, respond back like that. But in a general scenario in which we work, it is expected that our responses, they go through both thinking side and feeling side. It's not that the thinking side is hijacked. That's not a very good response system. So therefore, it is imperative, it is essential to organize our intelligence in such a way that the stimulus is anticipated and an appropriate response is generated. So the organizing, therefore we have to give the time and energy to organize that intelligence in a way that stimulus is anticipated and response is generated. And that gives us the strength to be able to react not spontaneously, but think and react like that.
Prabhuji, mostly poor communication is the result of misunderstanding. So, how we can communicate in a better way, especially when we are in stress?
When we are in stress, it's not so easy to communicate because there's a concept of non-violent communication. So by default, when we are in stress, the communication tends to become violent. So it's essential in order to be able to communicate effectively to come out of stress. Otherwise, there's a good chance that when we are in stress, the elements of stress goes through our communication, and the communication could become violent, and that could create a problem. So if at all we have to communicate something essential during stress, then probably we may have to do the needful. But it's good to cool down, bring down the resentment, bring down the bitterness, and then address the situation. That would be more effective.
Prabhuji, how can someone deal with toxic work culture?
Yeah. So it's not 0-100. Toxicity is not 0-100. So it is, say, 10% toxicity, 50% toxicity, something like that. So if it is too much toxic, naturally we may have to think of other alternatives. But if it is little, there's a problem somewhere. Then it's, so in a good work culture we have good boundaries. So we, when we interact with our colleagues, with our superiors or whomsoever whom we interact with, so we communicate our boundaries also. We set our boundaries and we communicate our boundaries, and we have a good demarcations made so that they don't overstep us or we don't overstep them. So that communication is done like that.
Prabhuji, forgiveness is powerful and impactful. I believe in that. But is it practical in corporate world?
Yeah, it's very much practical. Forgiveness, one of the important things about forgiveness is that when we forgive someone, then we don't give them an opportunity to keep exploiting us. We forgive, let us say there's some difference of opinion or something like that, and there's a perceived exploitation, a perceived mistreatment which happened towards us, then, and so we communicate and we address it and we forgive the other person so that the relationship keeps going on, it progresses. But it does not give an leverage to the other person to keep exploiting us. That's not a part of forgiveness. So it's essential to forgive. However, it's not that we give a repeated opportunity for other person to exploit us. Like I'll give an example which happened when I was in my college. It so happened that the two of my friends, they both were dealing with a project, and they have been childhood friends. From childhood they were friends. So they did the project together, and then they went to the guide, and they were about to show the project to the guide. So the guide, and then the one person, because of some work, one of the friends, uh, because of some work he had to go outside somewhere at that point of time. So the other person took advantage of the situation. He took the whole project work and he presented it to the guide, and he said that this project work or some work, and he said that this is what I have done it. Most of the work will. So what the things which the other friend had done, he took it to his own credit, and the person came back, and then this person is being openly appreciated in front of many other friends. So he could understand that there's a problem. So and then he did not say anything at that time. The whole thing ended, and then both of them met. So when both of them met, the person who took the credit, there was guilt written on his face.
Yes.
He is not able to speak only. So now the other friend, he could have taken advantage of the situation and he could have easily put him down. Naturally, he is in a superior position. But if he would have done that, probably the relationship would have broken for all time. So he said, that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. There is some problem, but that's okay. We can continue. Anyway, did not affect much. So like that. So this person, the person who took the credit, he became so much touched. It took him to the guide again to explain that what are the things which he has done, what are the things which the other person had done. So he made that whole communication like that. So I was very much touched by this whole incident, the person, my friend, how he had dealt with, and now they are still very good friends like that.
Prabhuji, you handle so many spiritual teams, and I guess you have faced disagreement or differences. How you handle it?
There are two golden rules whenever disagreements happen as to how to handle them. First thing is to focus on a higher purpose. And second rule is to understand that the relationship is more important than either's cause. So focusing on a higher purpose, I'll give an example. One of my teachers, when he was a child, so he was 8 years old or something like that. So his mother told him that your father is very good and I am very good. However, we are both not able to stay together.
Yes.
So we have decided to get separated. So this small boy who was some 8 years, 10 years old, he got a shock of his life. He immediately started crying. And he ran away from that place. So he ran away and he hid in the bushes and he was waiting for his father to come. And after some time in the evening, father had come to his home. And this boy, he was looking at, when the father was coming, he was looking at the father, and the father went to the room, and this boy is wanting to know what is happening inside the room. So he kept his ear to the door of the room, and the room was locked from inside, and they started talking. So the mother explained the whole incident, and then she said, see, we want to separate, but for our kids, we have to stay together. And then they stayed together for a whole life. So if there is a higher purpose, like for example, husband, wife, the higher purpose is children. Similarly, in a workplace, profit is a higher purpose, but then there could be much higher purposes as well. So when there is a higher purpose, then people stay together. So that is one thing. Second thing is, whenever there is a relationship, whenever there is a conflict, so there is one person tends to say that I am right, another person tends to say that I am right. So the question is, who is right and who is wrong? So that question has to be addressed. And it has to be appropriately addressed. That's fine. But more important than that question is that, irrespective of whose opinion is right or whose opinion is better, irrespective of whose opinion is better, the relationship is much more important than whose opinion is better. So if the focus is on relationship, then the handling the disagreement becomes far easier.
Okay, Prabhuji, so then if a company's decisions go against someone's personal value, so how we can deal with it?
Yeah, again, it's not It's not that a company is 100% they are against someone's values. There could be, say, uh, there could be some reason, there could be some percentage of it which is affecting one's values or something like that. So here comes the emphasis on boundaries and communication. So, and how much is our personal space and how much is not our personal space or something. So these all things come into consideration. Now, if it is about the question is about integrity, or the question is about these questions come in picture, questions come in place, and if one's personal values are getting affected, then one may have to take an appropriate decision accordingly. But in general, the case is not like that. The case is about mostly in such scenarios, the case is about properly discussing boundaries and communicating with our colleagues and with our superiors, etc.
Prabhuji, when team conflict get heated and someone try to be a peacemaker, wants to be a peacemaker, so how he can do it without taking any side?
Yeah, it's essential to be a detached observer. Otherwise, it's very difficult to not take sides. Especially there are two opinions, and both are close to us. People on both sides are close to us. Then it's difficult to not take sides. So unless and until one is a detached observer. So in order to be a good peacemaker, one has to have certain level of goodness to be a detached observer as to what opinion, how it may affect the workplace, and some XYZ opinion, how it may affect the workplace. And whenever an opinion comes, along with it, emotions also come. X opinion comes, emotions come along with it. Y opinion comes, emotions come along with it. So how to separate those emotions from the opinion? How to separate emotions from Y opinion? How to separate emotions from X opinion? So in order to be able to do it, one has to be a detached observer. Therefore, we recommend that mm, to be in touch with spirituality is very essential, and that gives us the strength to help others as well. Like the other day, we were discussing an example when I was in a company. It so happened that when I was working with Computer Sciences Corporation, so our client was Zurich. So Zurich was our client, and the team in Zurich, the client, so they were giving us requirements, and they were talking to us, and so our team lead, he was, and the requirements are not so clear. Mm, so there are communication gaps in there. So, but then they wanted results as early as possible, and so our team lead, he was pushing us. So one amongst our team members, he said that you see, you can push us, that's fine, but at the same time, uh, they are saying something, and then after some time they are changing it, and so it's creating a confusion, and it is unnecessary. We have to toil a lot because of all these reasons. So we need some clarity. So then the team lead said that it's true what you're saying, but at the same time, you also have to understand that Wipro is just round the corner. If you do not perform, the project probably will go to Wipro. So therefore, instead of focusing too much on clarifying and negotiating and all that, let us focus on how to get the work done. So like that, so there was an argument between both of them, and then over a period of time, the argument started going in a different direction, saying that this is what we have to do, and the other person is saying that this is what we have to do, and then fault finding may happen, and so all these things were happening. So one of our colleagues, he said, "Arey, instead of getting into opinion and saying who is right and who is wrong and all that, why not just communicate? Why not just talk with the client? Maybe they may have that space. In case they do not have that space, then okay, let us discuss as to whether our team has that capacity to be able to handle the toiling and all that, or they do not have that capacity. But why not talk with the client in case they do have that capacity, and then let them make it more clearer, and that's how the problem was solved like that."
Yes, people from two different faiths have a different concept or different conflict in certain point. So how we can deal with it?
See, as all faiths, they have common principles. Like Christianity, they believe in one God. Islam, they believe in one God. Sanatan Dharma, they also believe in one God. And different prophets have come at different times to give this time teachings according to time, place, circumstances, and according to the people who are involved and the circumstances which are involved, like that. And it is explained in Bible itself says that I have a lot of knowledge to give, but then uh, the audience, whenever they can take it, while we give that knowledge, like that. Jesus Christ himself says that. So, and the essential teachings amongst all these religions are same. So, like Christian Bible, one of the 10 commandments of Bible is love thy neighbor as thyself. You have we love our neighbors. You have to love God. So the word Islam means surrender to God, and by Bhagavad Gita it speaks about sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja, which also refers to surrender to God. So the essential teachings are same. Now there are differences, as can be expected, uh, depending on the time, place, and circumstances in which the teachings have been offered, and so naturally there are differences amongst the details, which can be expected. So now these differences, either due to lack of knowledge or due to ulterior motive, sometimes they are magnified, and that creates divisions in society. So if the focus is on essence, that becomes easier to resolve the conflicts amongst different faiths. I'll give you an example. One of our teachers, he wrote a book wherein he tells his own biography, wherein he tells about a story when he was exploring different paths. He came across one person who belongs to a different faith, and he also has a lot of faith in God, and they were discussing and all that. So now this person has changed it. Earlier he was belonged to a different faith, and he has changed his faith, like that. So they were discussing, and then my teacher, when he was asking him that, see, these two different faiths, the faith which I belong to and the faith which you belong to, they are so different, and the differences are amongst the people in general are so huge. Then how is it possible that you are able to respect me so much? So this gentleman, he gave a very interesting answer. He said, imagine if I have a dog, and then the master comes. On one day he comes in one dress, and the next day he comes in another dress. So will the dog discriminate between the master because today on Thursday he came in one dress and the Friday he came in a different dress? That the dog does not discriminate. Similarly, God, when he comes and he presents his teachings to you, to your faith in a way, and then tomorrow he comes, or he sends a messenger, he comes and sends his teachings in a way which is palatable for me. So why should I discriminate that, on discriminate people on basis of this? So the teachings are similar. There could be differences in details, but then that can be accommodated.
Like the motto is same.
Yes, the motive is same. Yes.
So lastly, Prabhuji, what is your suggestion for those leaders who really want to create peaceful work culture?
In order to create a good work culture, trust-based environment has to be created, and there are two requirements for creating a trust-based environment. One is to, as we were discussing, if there is a higher purpose, and the purpose has to be beyond profits. Profit is certainly there, but it has to be beyond profits as well. So we suggest that businesses are run on two principles: earn by integrity, spend with compassion. So whatever earning we do, we follow the rules, business rules, and in this way, because nowadays in the corporate world, it's cheating is a common thing, fraud is a common thing. So we suggest that earn with integrity, and we spend it for a higher cause. We spend it for the greater benefit of the society. So businesses which are businesses which are based upon these principles, they are long lasting. Like for example, Tata's. 66%, Tata's is one of the biggest companies in India. 66% of Tata shares are owned by charitable organizations. And Tata's have done maximum charity than any other company in the whole world till date.
Yes.
And their company has been running probably from last 200 years. It's of generation after generation is going on because it is based on a good work culture. So that is first thing. And second thing, a concern for the stakeholders. So the employees are taken care of, the stakeholders, customers are taken care of, the uh, not just directors, but everyone is taken care of, and the common public whom we are serving is taken care of. So if both these things are if these two essential principles are followed, and then that could result in an environment which is based upon trust. That makes the work culture very peaceful.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for your precious time and valuable insights. Hope we will talk about something more valuable topics. So, Hare
I'm also
Krishna.
grateful for being here. Hare Krishna.